Yes. Thank you so much for being here and doing this again. I'm really looking forward to this. How are you? Where are you? How's your week been so far?
It's been a good week. It's been fun that the book launched today, so that's been exciting. And I'm right outside of Philadelphia in a town called
Amazing.
Newtown Square.
Well, congratulations on the launch of the book today. Like I said before, everyone, if you're listening to this conversation and you'd like to know more about the shift, you can click the link in the comments below. I pinned the link to the top of the comments. It takes you straight to Amazon, and you can order the book as we're speaking. So, Gary, I was asking you before we had that slight technical difficulty, I was asking you about the impact that the pandemic had on our physical and mental health, and then also how that really leads to this book coming out right now in a very interesting time where I think so many of us are realizing that our health may not be at its best. So I just wanted to understand that connection to start off with.
Yeah, I think the COVID context is important. And what it did was, on a mental health perspective, but also a physical health perspective, disrupt our daily routines. So you get into a rhythm, you get into a habitual positive habit cycle, and that actually perpetuates a lot of healthy behaviors and consistent with our goals. So that's when that gets disrupted, it leaves us sort of unsettled. In addition, there's real stress going on out there. Working from home, trying to manage multiple expectations, loved ones passing, these are not trivial stressors. So at times like these, the science is clear that how you think about things makes a difference. This doesn't say smile your way out of COVID. The end was really just saying that in the context of COVID, it really makes sense to take a step back and come with a fundamental sense of self-compassion, which I talk a lot about in the book, that I'm fundamentally worth taking care of. And also to lower expectations. Some people I heard were talking to and saying, well, I have all this time, I'm not commuting, why don't I learn a second language? It's like, enough is enough. Like, take time to take care of yourself. We deserve some rest in these stressful times.
I completely agree with that. I think one of the biggest reasons, as you know, why we struggle to take care of ourselves is we feel that so many people depend on us. So many people are relying on us, whether it's children, whether it's partners, whether it's elderly parents or family members. How do we kind of get through that dilemma that we all go through around how much time we make for ourselves instead of feeling guilty for making that time? How do we reconcile all of that?
I think one is to recognize that it's a myth that self-compassion is somehow selfish and it will take time away from others. The science is clear on this matter that the more self-compassion you show yourself, the more you treat yourself like a friend, the more energy that allows for others. That's just such a truism in life that we think somehow help, it's others, others, others. No, start with yourself first. That's not selfish. That's a fundamental, scientifically based approach that will help you take care of yourself as well as others. And what I like about that is that's not just important for a weight and wellness journey. That's important for life overall.
Yeah. What if someone says, Gary J, I've done this before. I've tried before. It didn't work last time. I lose momentum. I lose motivation. I'm just, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I just keep struggling. How do you respond to that in the book? How does the book help someone who's like, I've tried this. I've failed a million times. Like, I can't do this to myself again.
Yeah, I think part of the reason that people have difficulty is maybe they focus on not the right things or not enough of the right things. And after my 30 years of helping people manage their weight, whether in group or individual settings, it became increasingly clear to me that mindset matters. It matters enormously. And what I noticed patient after patient, study after study, is that those who were the most successful weren't those who had necessarily lost weight every week or followed the plan exactly right or had nailed every workout. No, it was the people most successful were the people who changed the way they thought about the journey and the way they thought about themselves. So if you're coming from a journey that you deem as unsuccessful, that's an opportunity to learn. But it may be because you were so focused on eat this, don't eat that, do this kind of workout versus that kind of workout that you didn't have that missing ingredient. And that's how to think about yourself in a way that's self-compassionate and a way to think about the journey where you can encounter setbacks, use them as opportunities to learn and to do differently in the future.
We have a question coming in from Leah that says, what mindset do we need to keep weight off long term? So I think that's, let's emphasize the long term there. I think people may even have experienced short term, but how do we do it? What's the mindset that you'd say from the book applies to long term?
I think it's the 7 that are in the book. I think the most fundamental is self-compassion. And I think this is so important because people who are struggling with their weight have often been stigmatized based on their weight and shape. And unfortunately, many actually internalize that societal nonsense and believe that somehow they don't measure up, that their weight is their worth, that eating is a moral issue. That's nonsense. And it's that exact kind of thinking that can derail the weight loss journey, whether it's short term or long term. And again, I think the other thing to think about is certainly eating and activity are important. They're necessary, but not sufficient. This should feel like a gift to yourself. The more it feels onerous and difficult, not so great. This should be a process that's a positive one, not a punishing one. Something you're doing for yourself, not against yourself.
Yeah, that's a really important point. I really resonate with that. About, we often feel like, not eating what we want is restricting ourselves or limiting ourselves, but actually it's rewarding ourselves. It's being good to ourselves. It's showing love to ourselves. And I think that's often the challenge is that mindset of, we think like, oh, we're completely suppressing what we truly want. But actually, we're not suppressing. We're not sacrificing.
It's exactly right. It's embracing the best version of yourself, however you define that to be. It's how you treat your body with reverence and respect. A lot of people think that mistakenly, importantly, that the more I hate my body, the more weight I'll lose. That somehow that self-improvement requires self-loathing. Nothing could be further from the truth. I've done studies myself, as have many colleagues. The more you like your body and value your body at the beginning of a weight loss journey, actually the better you do, because of your point. This is something I want to treat my body well. So this isn't making up for past transgressions. This isn't some moral issue. This isn't going to dieter's prison for 3, 4, 5, 6 months. That's not sustainable. What is sustainable is coming from a fundamental sense of worth. It's hard to like yourself if you hate your body. So appreciate yourself, value your body for what it does, and treat it in a way that feels kind and respectful.
I absolutely love that. I think that is such a big shift. And if any of you are listening or watching right now and you're thinking that too, I'd love for you to head down to the link and order a copy of this book. I genuinely agree with Gary that simple shift of hating yourself is not going to get you inspired to change. But loving yourself, liking yourself, wanting to build a better relationship with yourself is. And I see Paige Elizabeth in the comments saying, yes, that's huge. I never thought of it that way. Leah says, self-compassion is crucial. My therapist just told me to practice compassion about a different matter, but still. So I hope you're going to grab a copy of the book. Who else? Oh, here we go. Agnes says, 100%. I put all the weight back. My mindset was wrong. Oh, this is a great question coming in. Maha says, how can we stop emotionally eating? It's hard to be self-compassionate with that.
Yeah, I think partly how to deal with emotional eating from the fundamental assumption of self-compassion is, and part of self-compassion is accepting humanity. As you're a member of the human experience, you will experience stress, you will experience sadness, and can you take a moment to experience it? Point one. Point two is to examine the thoughts. We often have these automatic thoughts that I talk a lot about in the book, or certain thinking styles. We all think about our eating habits and our activity habits. We think less traditionally about our thinking habits. Some people are all or none thinkers. They think in absolutes. So I'm stressed, so I have to eat. I must eat. Could you give yourself a take 5? Try to do something else and just give yourself 5 minutes and not eat and see how that feels. And it may feel a little sucky. It may feel like it doesn't feel so great, but that's okay. Most of those urges are like a wave. You can surf the wave and it will come back down. So it really, again, says treat yourself with kindness, respect, self-compassion, create some pause with a 5-minute break. And the bottom line from a habit point of view is you're trying to disconnect that automatic, almost Pavlovian response.
Amazing. Tina says, you have no idea how much I needed to hear this today. Thank you. We have a lot of great comments coming in, which is beautiful to see. Thank you so much for everyone. And keep your questions coming. I'm going to keep asking them. And you can see that Gary's answering all of them exceptionally well. So please, please, please do keep your questions coming in. Gary, I had another question. One of the mindsets you talk about is this idea of leaning into your strengths. And I wanted to understand how that applies to this journey. How does leaning into your strengths help as a mindset?
I think it really shapes the starting point in a different way. And it's almost like whack-a-mole. I'll go around and I'll, get this deficiency down, and then I'll get this weakness taken care of. Instead of saying, I have lots of strengths that I literally bring to the table. Lots of strengths. I'm humorous. I have perseverance. I have a steadfast nature. I'm kind. I'm compassionate. I'm funny. And when you look at it that way, you say, what strength? I've got a pretty replete toolbox here. I can come to this experience of self-improvement with lots of skills. And I've worked with many people who have so many strengths and skills, but when it comes to weight management, they act as if they don't exist. I've worked with very successful people who have used perseverance, have used humor, have used creativity to do very successful things in life. But when it comes to weight management or wellness, they come with this deficiency mindset. So leaning into your strengths rather than building upon your weaknesses will create fuel for the journey.
I love that insight. I felt like that for so long. I've talked about it in my community, how, I'd focused for so many years on mastering the mind and neglected the body often and not really understood that mind-body connection. And as soon as I started to connect the two, you're absolutely right that the strengths of my mindset when it came to my work or my purpose or my mission could be directed towards my physical health as well. And for so many years, I came without it, and I saw it as totally separate. I was like, and it doesn't make any sense. You're so right. We do just separate these two very interconnected things. I think that's such a great point. So anyone who's listening or watching, and maybe you've had a career breakthrough, or maybe you worked really hard for that promotion, or maybe you worked hard through a personal challenge, right? Maybe you went through something in your family that you had to overcome and break through. All of that energy can be used towards your health and well-being journey as well. So, this is a big part of the shift. And again, I want to remind everyone that I'm talking to Dr. Gary Foster, and you can go and grab a copy of the book, The Shift, in the link at the bottom. Jamie asked a question, Gary, saying, what is the best advice for someone suffering from binge eating and a binge eating disorder? Thank you, Jamie, for that question.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to get any specific advice because, you should certainly talk to a healthcare professional. But I think in general, patterns of eating that are characterized by eating large amounts of food in a short period of time can be precipitated by extreme measures. So there's this binge starve cycle. So people may overeat a lot at night and then get up in the morning and mistakenly think it says something about their character or their person. It does not. And then they over restrict and then sets them up for another large eating episode. Another thing is the thinking styles we talked about earlier, that if you're going according to plan and things are going well and you feel like you're having a great day and then something goes unplanned, that sometimes that flips a switch for people. And they say things like, I've blown it. I'm horrible. Here I go again. That's not the truth. One of the techniques I talk about in the book is a reality check. Two ways to do that. One is talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend or a friend would talk to you. Some of the things we say to ourselves, we wouldn't even say out loud, let alone to a friend. And I often say to people I'm working with, that's you're talking about. You're your most important ally. And the second way to do a reality check is to act as if you were being interrogated by a lawyer. And imagine the lawyer saying to you, what are the facts to support that statement, that I've blown it, that I'm right back where I'm started, that I'm undisciplined, that I'm weak-willed? Not true. No facts to support that case.
I love that. It's a great answer, Gary. I'm going to take some more questions from the audience because some really good ones coming through. Charisma says, what do you do when your family doesn't support your weight loss goals?
Two things. One is to look for help elsewhere. The other is for people who are closest to you. Let me just build on the look for help
Yes.
elsewhere. It's not quite that easy or simple, but generally you're looking for people who generally approach you with a sense of warmth and non-judgment. The last thing you need on a weight and wellness journey is a lot of people second guessing you or judging you. So I would start, and there's a quiz in the book that actually allows you to go through, think about different people in your life and to see who might be a good fit. If it turns out that people who are closest to you, the people you live with, for example, or share many meals with, so it's reasonable to say things like, and it's not so much what they can do for you, it's often people who are closest to you who can derail you by things they're doing they could stop. So for example, I've noticed that when I order dessert or something you think I shouldn't be having, you roll your eyes. That's not very helpful for me, so I would appreciate if you wouldn't do that in the future. And what's nice about that is you're literally standing up for yourself and saying, I deserve this help, but also it's a specific request. Instead of saying be supportive, the person doesn't know what that means. So you have the right, you have the responsibility, you're empowered to decide what's helpful. Ask for it specifically, and then go back and say, it was really great. I noticed the other day when I had dessert, you didn't make a comment. That was really helpful. Or instead of saying you weren't supportive, say, you know, I asked you not to make any comments and you did again. Help me make some sense of that. And that may be worth a proper conversation about the relationship overall.
These are all such fantastic points, Gary. I'm really enjoying this conversation. And one thing that came to mind when you answered that last question was this idea that you may have people in your life that want to improve their journey. And so this is a great book to give as a gift to them as well. You may have had someone in your life that has been asking you for help and support, and you may be thinking, I don't know how to help, or, you know, you may not be informed, you may not be aware of the best path to take. This book can act as a great gift to a friend or family member who's been coming to your advice maybe for many months or many years, or someone that you know is struggling, to gently nudge them in the right direction. So I just want to remind you that link is at the bottom. Gary, we've got time for a few more questions. I had a big one that I wanted to ask you, which was this idea of, you talk about the power of small steps and also more frequent rewards. I wanted to understand from you, what is a good reward when you start going in the right direction? Because I feel like often a reward ends up being a setback, because our reward ends up being the thing that we're trying not to eat or consume. And so then we reward ourselves, and that reward turns into a weekend and then turns into a week because of our connection to it. I'm speaking for myself, by the way. I am, for years, I was deeply addicted to chocolate, and it took me a long, long time to, you know, to create a healthy connection with chocolate. But how do you reward? What are healthy ideas or ways to reward yourself? I know the book talks about this a lot, but I just wanted to get some initial thoughts from you.
Yeah, I think the first thing, and I think you're speaking for yourself perhaps, but also for millions who have been on similar journeys. The first thing is that small, specific steps are the way to go, because that's what leads to big success. We're sort of taught culturally, think bold, big, audacious goals. They're okay, but a big, bold, audacious goal without small steps to get there is meaningless. So really focus on what's the first smallest step you can make. And to your point about rewards, that's the beauty of small, specific rewards, is that they generate this reinforcement, this reward along the way. There is some inherent reward just in meeting the goal. So if I want to run a marathon and my first goal is to walk 5 minutes tomorrow, I actually feel pretty darn good after walking that 5 minutes. And it's this intrinsic reward. Other ways are to think about things that you like to do that aren't necessarily the thing you're trying to avoid. To use your example. So maybe you pair taking a walk with calling a friend. So walk is sort of neutral, maybe a little adverse at first, but now it's coupled with something, or listening to a podcast or listening to music. So it's really coupling that reward cycle. And that's how a habit's created. There's a cue, there's a behavior, and then a reward. And then that cycle keeps going around in a positive, virtuous cycle.
I love that. So rewards do not have to be food, everyone, just so you know. Valerie says, ice cream is my weakness. I Travel for Love says, I love chocolate too. Everyone relates to me, so that makes me feel a lot better. I think that's a big part of it too, right, Gary? This idea of, you know, I'm seeing all the comments fly in, and it's brilliant because everyone agrees and connects and realizes that this is something we all struggle with. Right? This is something we all struggle with. How important is community and accountability and growing with others a part of this journey? Like, how important is that, and how do we create that?
I think you can do it in two ways. One is you can do it in the people that you interact with physically, but many digital communities, your community, for example, our Connect community at WW is another example of people who are sharing their stories along the journey. So that's why the power of community is just so fantastic and fundamental to a successful journey.
Well, Gary, I'm so happy you're doing this, and I can see the feedback from the audience and community is unanimous. Like, people have enjoyed this conversation, and I just want everyone to know that this is simply touching the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more inside this book that isn't just a new diet plan. It isn't just a new workout plan. It is about mindset shifts. And I think that's what you've all resonated and connected with so deeply today in this conversation, is that we're talking that when you change the way you feel about yourself, when you change the way you think about your journey towards weight loss, when you change the way you think about how you've done it before and how you're going to do it this time, that's what's going to change everything. So the name of the book is The Shift. I've been speaking to Gary Foster, who's been busy writing away, researching and creating all of the amazing work inside of this book. And it's the 7 powerful mindset changes for lasting weight loss. The book is called The Shift. I've pinned the link to the top of the comments for anyone who's missed it or joined in late. I see a lot of people saying, what's the name of the book? The name of the book is The Shift. And so I want you to head over to Amazon right now, or wherever you buy books, or pop into a bookstore, maybe an independent bookstore near you, to go and grab a copy of The Shift. Gary, is there any last words that you want to share with us, or any message that you'd like to share with our community today?
First, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation. And I think the fundamental shift that will lead to lasting success, whether it's weight, whether it's personal relationships or work productivity, is to start at the fundamental position of self-compassion, that you, in fact, are worth taking care of. This is a positive process, not a punitive one. Give the gift to yourself. You deserve it.
I love that. And we've got so many people ordering too. I just want to give a shout out. Smile Therapy says, just ordered it. Marie says, I just ordered it. This is brilliant. MoMA Inspired by Nature says, I'm buying it right now. I love that. This is fantastic, everyone. You won't be able to copy or click on the link often in Instagram, especially if it's having a moment like yesterday. But all you need to do is go and type in The Shift wherever you buy bookstores. And the book is by Gary Foster. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. I'm showing it to you right now, actually, on my own Amazon. There we go. So here we go. This is it. Got it right here. This is what it looks like. You can go and click and add to cart, which I'm about to do as well. And then it's added to my cart. So there we go. So hopefully you guys are going to add it too. Gary, thank you again so much for joining me today. Honestly,
my pleasure.
Speaking to you. I look forward to getting to meet you someday soon. And I'm so excited and happy to be sharing this work with my community. And I just want to thank you again for your time and your energy today, and the beautiful insights and questions you answered. Despite the technical difficulties, I think you've definitely caused a mindset shift for everyone today who's been listening and watching. So thank you from me, and thank you from my community too.
Thanks, Jay. Real pleasure to be with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Gary. Take care. Bye, everyone.
If you want another amazing video highlighting excellence in the Indian community, check it out right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.